It's time.
Why is Kamen Rider so legendary? From
Oh, sounds good.
1971's original Kamen Rider series to 2024's Kamen Rider Gav, the
Huh, I don't know a thing. Barely. I know they're like bug theme, if that's a thing. Just bug theme. I did not. I didn't watch that. So that's what's hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh wow. That's hilarious. Hmm. You would think they'll do well in the US. Be I'm glad I didn't see that. Mm.
Kamen Rider franchise is
Um, mhm. Holy crap. Hmm.
Has built an incredible legacy and a rich history within Japan and throughout the entire world. This video will cover every single Kamen Rider series throughout history, as well as other major milestones in the franchise like movies, games, and even American adaptations. So if you want a video that you can show to people who don't know what Kamen Rider is, or if you just want to take an entertaining walk with me through the complete history of this legendary franchise, this is the video for you. To tell the story of the Kamen Rider franchise, we first have to go all the way back to 1938, where a young child named Shotaro Onodera was born in the town of Tome in Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. Shotaro would take on the name Ishinomori, and he showed a lot of creativity and a talent for creating characters from a young age.
Hold on. All right, let's forget everything I just said because apparently I had my mute button on for my mic. So, hey, let's start over. Hey, we're watching the history of power. We're watching the history of Kamen Rider, and they only heard your half, which is just so weird. They only heard your half of the conversation, apparently.
Oh wow.
Yep. So we're watching history of Kamen Rider again. I don't know much about it. I just watched the show that came on after Power Rangers. It was quite bad. It wasn't great, especially on a rewatch. You should look it up on YouTube. It's called Mass Rider. It is very weird and kiddie and stuff, and it wasn't that great. But cool, awesome design. The suit, the actual hero design was cool. That's why I liked it. Julius, you want to say again? Do you know anything about Mass Rider?
Yeah.
I mean, Kamen Rider.
I actually have not seen. Well, I've seen very little of Mass Rider and Kamen Rider at the time and now. So this is gonna be like fresh eyes, new experience right here. I'm excited about this.
I know a little bit of the Japanese stuff, but like that's only just looking at it and saying, "Oh, that's a cool design." Oh, and also I know the belts. I forgot to speak to the belts. If you can look down, every one of them has a belt, and that's how they transform. Is the belt. And
Okay.
and the belt is so many people in Japan. They're so elaborate. They get even more elaborate as the series goes, and they become bigger and bigger and weirder and more elaborate on how they transform. And so people collect them. Like there's big collectors things of these belts. It's really cool. I just know that's another big collector's thing. People collect Kamen Rider belts.
Nice.
Yep. All right, let's watch it. Start over from the beginning.
Why is Kamen Rider so legendary?
Oh, my video. There we go.
It's a bunch of them.
Look how huge those
From
belts are.
1971's original Kamen Rider series to 2024's Kamen Rider Gav, the Kamen Rider franchise has built an incredible legacy and a rich history within Japan and throughout the entire world.
Oh, fuck. Oh, his belt. Good lord. I can't wait till they
This video
show
will
it.
cover every single Kamen Rider series throughout history, as well as other major milestones in the franchise like movies, games, and even American adaptations. So if you want a video that you can show to people who don't know what Kamen Rider is, or if you just want to take an entertaining walk with me through the complete history of this legendary franchise, this is the video for you.
It dipped for some reason. Sorry, hold on. Make sure it stays there.
To tell the story of the Kamen Rider franchise, we first have to go all the way back to 1938, where a young child named Shotaro Onodera was born in the town of Tome in Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. Shotaro would take on the name Ishinomori, and he showed a lot of creativity and a talent for creating characters from a young age. He showcased his abilities in various manga competitions throughout his childhood before he would eventually create a character named Skullman that would of course go on to become Kamen Rider.
By the way, look at that. Does that look familiar?
That looks so familiar.
Yeah, for fighting game fans, you know who that is. That's Skullmania.
Childhood before he would eventually create a character named Skullman that would of course go on to become Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider is perhaps best known for featuring young adult men that become cyborgs and transform into armored superheroes with a theme of grasshoppers and other insects, although this has loosened up a lot over time, and in the modern age, not all series feature this bug theme. In fact, most don't.
Okay.
There are 3 eras of Kamen Rider, and these coincide with the eras of Japan's history. These eras are known as the Showa era, spanning from 1926 to 1989, the Heisei era, spanning from 1989 to 2019, and the Reiwa era, which spans from 2019 through the present day. In 1971, Kamen Rider was born with the iconic original series, starring 2 main protagonists in Takeshi and Hayato, as they would take on Shocker and later Gale Shocker. Unlike modern-day seasons of Kamen Rider, this series ran for a whopping 98 episodes. And we would start with the story of Takeshi Hongo, a college student who was turned into a cyborg by Shocker, but they were unable to fully convert his mind, and he would rebel and battle against them.
The scarf. Wait a minute.
While filming a motorcycle stunt,
no man, you couldn't even recycle the footage. Hold on. Watch the scarf.
While filming a motorcycle stunt, Takeshi Hongo's actor Hiroshi Fujioka was injured and
multiple.
Had to be replaced.
They didn't just recycle footage. They made him jump multiple times.
Takeshi Sasaki, and eventually they would join forces together, becoming the iconic Double Riders. This series set iconic tropes such as Kamen Rider being a cyborg fighting an evil organization, and of course his preferred method of transportation, his rider machine Cyclone.
The
motorcycles. To say that the series was iconic and legendary would be a huge understatement.
That's why he's the rider.
Kamen Rider.
In 1973, Toei would follow up the success of Kamen Rider with Kamen Rider V3, a direct sequel, featuring returning characters from Kamen Rider.
He jumped out the wall.
In this series, Shiro Kazami wants to be a cyborg in order to avenge his family that he saw being killed by Destron. He becomes mortally wounded while risking his life to protect the Double Riders. So in return, they turn him into Kamen Rider V3. This series features Joji Yuki, also known as Rider Man, played by Takahisa Yamaguchi, who has one of the most unique rider suit designs in the franchise, being that his mouth is exposed through his helmet. Our protagonist Shiro is played by Hiroshi Miyauchi, who also played Owl Ranger in Go Ranger, Big One in Jaka, and Chief Counselor Naoyuki Miura in O Ranger, plus multiple seasons of the Metal Hero franchise. This guy is a Toku legend. As far as V3 suit design, it was a natural evolution from the looks of the Double Riders, featuring more red and a slightly more detailed design.
Kamen Rider X!
1974 was the year of Kamen Rider X, where our main protagonist Keisuke and his father were betrayed by Keisuke's fiancée in order to assist God, the government of darkness,
starting to look more
leading
like
Keisuke and his father to become mortally wounded. Keisuke's father, who was a robotics expert, turned Keisuke into a Kaizorg, also known as X-Rider or Kamen Rider X, in order to save his life. In this series, Keisuke starts as an easygoing character with the optimism of somebody that's about to get married. But all that is ripped away from him, and he turns into a machine of pure precision and focus. His helmet is meant to look like a skull, and his helmet definitely has a look that calls back to the Skullman manga created by Shotaro Ishinomori. Due to competition from anime on TV at the time, the show had lower ratings than the studio had hoped, and it only lasted 35 episodes.
Anime was getting big.
Also in 1974, we had Kamen Rider Amazon.
Before we get into this, because there's a whole suit design, definitely suit. I remember this, a whole separate suit design. What do you think of the suit designs from these other ones in the show? From the originals?
They don't look
this
bad.
series set iconic
kind of reminds me of oh, I can't think of the name of that movie right now. Blank Man. how how generic it is, but I don't not like them. I like them. If that makes sense. I like them.
You already see the big
But
theme of the grasshopper. The grass
mm-hmm.
definitely look like grasshoppers. Big chest, scarf, belt. Those are the major designs for Kamen Rider. They have a bike, have a scarf, or some kind of tassel or something like that. It used to be a scarf, and the scarf is being worn out. Big bug-like head and the big belts that looks like it has a fan. I see a fan design. I mean, a windmill or a fan design in each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Tropes such as Kamen Rider natural evolution from the looks of the double
Yeah, all
riders,
these outfits
featuring
have
more
some kind of
red
tassel
and a slightly
things.
more detailed design.
Big chest. I guess it's supposed to be like
Ratings
abdomens
than the
and
studio
whatnot
had
from
hoped, and
insect.
it only lasted 35 episodes.
Yeah. Like the exoskeleton.
Yep. Cool design, old school design. But you'll definitely see later on whether they try to do it when they're definitely branching off from it or going back to that original design. I've
Also
actually
in
watched a little bit of
1974,
this.
we had
It's
Kamen
weird.
Rider Amazon. This is the shortest Kamen Rider series ever and one of the most violent. This show follows Daisuke, who was lost in the Amazon as a child. He was raised by wild animals before eventually being adopted by an Incan tribe. Nearly his entire village would be killed by Golgos, but not before an elder in the tribe performs a ritual to give him the power to become Kamen Rider Amazon. This was an incredibly iconic and unique new look for Kamen Rider, with a helmet design and a suit design that had never been seen before. This was the first rider to not use a belt to henshin, and the first Kamen Rider series since the original to not have any previous riders returning. This is also the very last main Kamen Rider series that did not have a Sentai season air alongside it. 1975 saw the release of Kamen Rider Stronger,
he said
which
it was
originally planned
I watched
to be
a
the
little
final.
bit of it. It's like he fights a monster, and at one point he rips off the monster's arms.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yep, and actually hits him with it. Like it does things like he fights very animalistic. It's very weird. I remember that distinctly when I watched it.
Kamen Rider series. This show follows Shigeru Joe, whose best friend and mentor Goro is killed by Black Satan. Because of this, Shigeru lets himself get turned into a cyborg or Kamen Rider Stronger.
Oh my gosh, seizure. So much flashing lights.
Yuriko, also known as Electronic Wave Humanoid Tackle or Denpa Ningen Tekud, who is also a cyborg created by Black Satan, and together they would battle Black Satan and later the Delzer Army.
Black Satan.
Electronic Wave Humanoid Tackle isn't technically a Kamen Rider, but she definitely has the look of one, especially the ones from the early Showa era, and she is bug-themed, with Tackle's motif being a ladybug, and she was even created by Black Satan in the same way as Stronger. Unfortunately, the actress Kyoko Okada, who played Electronic Wave Humanoid Tackle, passed away at the age of 27 due to an asthma attack. Shigeru was played by Shigeru Araki, who also passed away in 2012 of pneumonia.
Holy crap.
This was meant to be called Kamen Rider Spark, but that was trademarked in Japan. However, this would have been a really fitting name due to the show's focus on electricity. And this was the very first Kamen Rider series to have a temporary power-up for the main rider, that being Stronger's charge-up form. 4 whole years later, the Kamen Rider fandom would be introduced to Sky Rider. This was meant to be a reboot of the original Kamen Rider series after the franchise had been off of TV for 4 whole years, hence the name and similar suit design to Kamen Rider Ichigo.
Yeah.
This show would revisit classic themes and tropes from the first 2 Kamen Rider series. In Skyrider, we follow Hiroshi Tsukuba as he battles Neo Shocker. Eventually, the idea of this being a reboot was phased out over time, and classic Kamen Riders would appear, tying this into the continuity of the rest of the era. With a name like Skyrider, this series was very focused on flight. However, this was also phased out over time, and as far as I can tell, this was because Shotaro Ishinomori was unhappy with the flight special effects, i.e. he didn't like how it looked when Skyrider was flying around.
Yeah, didn't like the green screen.
In 1980, we were introduced to Kamen Rider Super 1. Our protagonist, Kazuya, volunteers for cybernetic surgery in the International Space Development Program in the United States, so he can be an astronaut who doesn't need a spacesuit to survive in space. Unfortunately, before he can make it to space, the base where his operation is being performed is attacked by the Dogma Kingdom, with everyone else being killed. He goes to Japan and is trained by a martial arts expert named Master Ginkai, who teaches him how to henshin into Super 1. This show featured multiple types of interchangeable hands with different strengths and elements, and this functioned as a prototype version of the form switching that we see today.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, Kamen Riders, they switch forms.
In 1984, Toei released a one-off special titled Birth of the 10th Kamen Riders All Together, and this was the introduction of Ryo Murasame, also known as Kamen Rider Z-Cross. Ryo was a pilot who was attacked by a UFO while with his sister before being kidnapped by the Badan Empire, who turned him into Z-Cross. With his memory erased, he does their bidding before quickly regaining his memory and escaping. He learns of the other riders that came before him, and they would team up together. Although this is only a special, Z-Cross is considered the 10th rider and often represented as a season retroactively. This special marks the final unhinged appearance of Shiro Kazami, also known as Kamen Rider V3, Joji Yuki, also known as Riderman, and Kazuya Oki, also known as Kamen Rider Super 1.
I like the Super 1 design.
1987 saw the release of one of the most popular and loved series in the history of the Kamen Rider franchise in Kamen Rider Black. This is a legendary entry marked by a dark tone, a gritty look, and a very emotional story.
Yeah,
this show is a drama in the fullest sense.
This is actually good. If you want to watch a Kamen Rider series, this was pretty good.
Minami, who is portrayed masterfully by Tetsuo Kurata, and he delivers a heavy and impactful performance where you're gonna feel the agony that he feels during his fight against Shadow Moon and the Gorgon. It was around this time that the look of Kamen Riders in general started to change a little bit. The helmets became a little less bulky, and the armor started looking a little more like armor instead of cloth. The aesthetics here and the tone would remain influential to future iterations of Kamen Rider for years to come.
Yeah, really do kind of like this design a lot. Especially this one too. Which I believe this is the one I like.
In 1988, after the success of Kamen Rider Black, the executives at Toei agreed to go ahead with a sequel entitled Kamen Rider Black RX. In this series, Minami Kotaro returns, and he refuses an offer to join the Crisis Empire. Because of this, he's thrown into the sun, where he would become Kamen Rider Black RX.
He's tossed into the sun?
Yep.
This show is notable for featuring Rideron, which was a red car instead of Kamen Rider's signature motorcycle. And this was also the first show to introduce form switching into the franchise officially.
So, before he moves on real quick, he'll probably talk about it later, but this is what Mass Rider is based off of, this series.
Oh, okay.
So this is what the American show was based off of. It was based off of Kamen Rider X and XR. Yeah, I love this design. This would make me want to watch it, and I got upset when I watched the Japanese version. I was like, this is so good. Why didn't they just redo this, but in English, but like it just toned down a little bit of the violence? Because your hero, he got fucked up. He gets fucked up. Like he gets beat up, burnt, things, and like you like I said, you can feel his agony. He gets beat up a lot, but he toughs through and goes and keeps on fighting. And so much so, this is so good. I don't know if he'll get to it because it looks like, oh no, he might talk about it. It says 2004, so he'll probably talk about it. This gets redone a little bit later on,
Oh,
and that's also worth watching.
In the Crisis Empire. Because of this, he's thrown into the sun.
tossed into the
1992 was an
sun.
absolutely packed year for the Kamen Rider franchise, featuring Shin Kamen Rider Prologue, a film celebrating the 20th anniversary of the franchise. Because this was
It's
20
true
years
forward.
later, this film was meant to attract fans of the original series that had now grown into adults, and that's why the film was a lot darker and more violent.
And nasty.
Our protagonist here is Shin Kazamatsuri, who is fused with grasshopper DNA against his will, leading him to fight against the Institute of Super Science, or ISS. Shotaro Ishinomori originally planned for him to be called Kamen Rider
look at
Gaia
this
with a
mess.
more traditional look, but later on they changed this to Kamen Rider Shin and gave him a suit that was more biological and insect-like. Ishinomori himself even appears in this movie as a spy.
That's wild.
Which, by the way, yeah, that's what I was saying about Kamen Rider. They like grow the age.
Also in
up the show.
1993, we had the release of Kamen Rider on the Super Famicom. This was a game based on the original Kamen Rider series, released 20 years after the show that it's based on. It was a beat-em-up style game, allowing two players to play
F that. Hold on. F that. I just saw that.
on the original Kamen Rider series, released
Hold on,
20
I'll
years
point it out.
after the show
I'll
that
be
it's based
upset.
on. It was a beat
Started level.
Beat 'em up
Immediately
style game.
hit. How you dodge that? F that. That's arcade mentality. You automatically just take a health penalty when you start that level.
allowing two players to play as Kamen Rider Ichigo and Nigo respectively. This game made it possible for a new generation to experience the universe of the original Kamen Rider series, and you can even play it with a friend.
Ultraman.
Rounding out a huge 1993 was Ultraman vs. Kamen Rider, a TV special featuring mini clips and interviews with the people involved from both shows, where we have Kamen Rider growing into a giant to fight alongside Ultraman.
Oh, he hasn't spoke on it? Oh, that's an Ultraman
This
shot
was a
right
small
there.
project, but fans in 1993 welcomed
Yeah,
it.
he
and
hasn't
kept
talked
the
about it. You
spirits
see
of
him
these
keep doing
legendary
this
Toku
flying kick.
characters alive and well.
Yeah, that's Kamen Rider's signature attack, the flying kick.
Kamen Rider J!
I'm living that too.
1994 was the year of Kamen Rider J, the first rider to be able to grow into
rider
a
kick.
giant. Koji Segawa is a photographer
It's all,
who was killed
a
while
rider
attempting
kick is
to
always
protect his
referenced
little
in a lot
sister
of things
named
where you see
Kana.
somebody
He's
just jump
thrown
up and
over
do
a
this
cliff,
flying
and
like
Kana is
karate
captured.
style
The
kick.
Earth spirits resurrect Koji, and he becomes Kamen Rider J, who is assisted by his aide Barry. J is played by Yuta Mochizuki, who also played Geki in Zyuranger.
Oh, really?
Oh, they're talking about it. Saban!
1995
You
would
ruined the
live
show.
in infamy with Saban's Masked Rider, one of the largest blemishes on the resume of Kamen Rider.
I have traveled a vast distance from the planet Edenoi.
Huh?
After the
Edenoi.
success of Power Rangers during the 90s,
Hold on. I hate the show so much, but I have to do this. He's an alien that just falls down from Earth to Earth into this super multicultural family, and they just accept him and don't
From
talk
the
about
planet
it.
Edenoi.
Huh?
after the success of Power Rangers,
Look at it. Look at white. And she apparently is European of some sort descent. I'm like, what?
This is
during the
this
90s,
is the
Such
worst
a-
Saban and
effect.
Toei decided to team up in
And
order to
then
bring
this
Kamen
little
Rider to
mother.
the
Oh my
East.
Why? They added this for no reason. Because he needed a funny sidekick.
speaking
Oh.
world. This resulted in what is widely considered to be one of the worst adaptations
Yes.
of all time. This show is about an alien named Dax from planet Edenoi who travels to Earth alongside his companion Furbus, who looks like a giant Furby,
Furbus.
and he meets a family who are pretty much devoid of personality and acting skills.
Ecto phase activate.
Ugh.
They tried to shove Kamen Rider
Wow.
and a family sitcom together, and
Yeah,
it just
they-
doesn't work.
but the
An
problem is they
unfortunate
lean so hard
blemish
on
to
the
the
family
legacy of
sitcom.
Kamen Rider in the West.
Breaking it down like Michael Jackson.
1998 saw the release of a Kamen Rider game on a brand new cutting-edge system, the PlayStation, allowing fans to experience the original Kamen Rider series all over again. This was a fighting game featuring characters and locations that fans of the original series would be really excited to see. The gameplay was nothing revolutionary here, but this was definitely a noteworthy release in the history of Kamen Rider. 1998 was also a year that would go down as a sad one for Kamen Rider fans, as we lost Shotaro Ishinomori due to heart failure on January 28, 1998. It was unclear what would come of the Kamen Rider franchise with the loss of its creator and visionary.
We're in the Hesto area, so how do you think the first era worked?
First looks pretty good. I like it. I
Yeah.
like the history, all the changes. They do it to a lot of changes.
I'm just upset about Mask Rider. It's goddamn.
What a blemish.
They adapted. They had the film footage and the adaptation to one of the best Kamen Rider series, and they didn't use it. They did not use it. They just used it. They wanted to do this sitcom family thing, and they just used the outfit every once in a while. Like, it's the most awesomest. It's the best out of the older Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider Black is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so much so you'll see they'll probably come speak on it later, but like, it's great. And now you're gonna start seeing. I think this is where they start. The belts start to become more fancy. Pay attention to the belts because he's not pointing them out, but look at those things.
Okay.
In 2000, Kamen Rider would return inside of the Heisei era with a new hero, a new legend, in Kamen Rider Kuga. This was the first series in 11 years.
Ooh, 11-year break?
Definitely.
The main protagonist in Kuga is Yusuke Godai, who finds an ancient artifact that allows him to become Kuga in order to battle the Gyorongi, or unidentified life forms. This was the final Kamen Rider season to feature only a single rider, as every season following Kuga would feature multiple riders.
But it's trying to be like Power Rangers.
It's almost kind of nice.
Kuga would also feature multiple forms that were different color swaps
Kamen Rider is so
and
much more
featured different
drama
weapons.
as
And this
well.
was also the first season to air alongside a Super Sentai season on the same network, leading to Superhero Time.
Yeah, superhero time. They call it superhero time.
In 2001, Toei released a direct sequel to Kuga titled Kamen Rider Agito, and this show features 4 very different riders. Shoichi becomes Agito, a magic-based rider whose name is Latin for move or keep moving. Makoto becomes G3, a mechanical and technology-based rider who's based off of Kuga and actually puts his suit on. Ryo is Gills, a biological rider whose armor actually grows from his body.
That's crazy.
And Kaoru is the incredibly cool Another Agito. This was the final Kamen Rider season to feature the Ishinomori style belt design. Also in 2001, the Ishinomori Manga Museum, named after Shotaro Ishinomori, opened in Ishinomaki, Miyagi Prefecture, Japan, to showcase some of the most culturally significant manga in history and to educate people on an art form that Shotaro Ishinomori himself loved so much. Even though Shotaro was gone, his legacy was well remembered, and the franchise he created was headed in an exciting new direction. "2002 brought Kamen Rider Yuki, a very popular season, especially amongst fans that enjoy having a lot of riders. Riders travel to the mirror world via reflective surfaces, and these riders compete in the Rider War, a winner-take-all competition where the victor will be granted a single wish. Yuki is known for having a very unique style, and this series has a lot of cool attributes, like being the first season to use cards, and it was also the first season where riders had a device that activates and announces their abilities and attacks. This was also the first season to feature villain riders. It was around this time that the team at Toei started getting more experimental and creative with suit designs, as evidenced by the unique and elaborate helmet designs showcased within Yuki.
Close. So,
2003 was the year of Kamen Rider Faiz, a show in which Smart Brain Org is trying to take over the world with Orphanox, who are the next stage of human evolution. They create 3 suits called Rider Gear, which are Faiz, Delta, and Kaiza. Our main protagonist in this series is Takumi, who along with his allies would fight against Smart Brain to prevent them from replacing the world with
How do you
Orphanox.
even hit those buttons? That belt.
Right.
There it is. That.
Faiz brought with it a dark, quality story with excellent acting and explosive action, and 2003 was another great year for Kamen Rider. – 2004 saw the release of Kamen Rider Blade, a playing card themed season featuring multiple riders that represented different suits from the card deck.
Yeah, they fight.
Our main protagonist is Kazuma, who becomes Kamen Rider Blade after being ordered, along with Sakuya, by Board to fight against creatures
you pull
called
out your
Undead.
deck. Do you?
on the duel.
The series featured some really cool riders, including Garen, Chalice, Liongo, and of course Blade himself. The show featured 2 intros, and the second intro looks cool, and you could tell their focus was just on making it look cool for the audience. But the first intro is genuinely hilarious to me, and it's really unique in its weirdness. Kick that napkin. Kick it. This was the first season to have 2 intros since Skyrider. In 2005, Toei released Kamen Rider Hibiki. This show wasn't even originally designed to be a Kamen Rider series, and in pre-production many different themes were tossed around, including ninjas and yokai, but when Bandai demanded that the Kamen Rider name be attached to the project in order to sell more toys, the original themes would be dropped, and the character would become an Oni-themed Kamen Rider.
Only theme.
By episode 29, chief producer Shigenori Taketera was fired, and this was unofficially attributed to low ratings and low toy sales. After the firing, there was a visible tone shift on the show, and it began to resemble a more traditional Kamen Rider series. Hibiki introduced a lot of unique things into the franchise, including the fact that there are no belts to henshin, and this is the only series with an instrumental theme.
Kamen Rider, the first.
2005 would continue with Kamen Rider the First. Kamen Rider the First was a modern-day reimagining of Shotaro Ishinomori's classic original series. This movie took some liberties in regards to story, but ultimately serves as a creative and well-made Kamen Rider project that shows a lot of love and respect for the original series. 2006 was an important year for Kamen Rider, as we would be introduced to the very first HD Kamen Rider series in Kamen Rider Kabuto.
Oh?
Yeah, this one's pretty popular.
The series takes place 7 years after a meteorite hit Shibuya, and shape-shifting creatures known as worms emerged from the disaster. This show added a cast-off feature, giving a unique external layer of armor over the rider's base armor, something completely fresh and new to the franchise. This show is notable for having a lot of unique riders with varied story arcs. The main protagonist is named Soji, and he's very unique within the franchise due to being extremely arrogant most of the time.
Amazing good.
Kabuto is also very unique due to its food and culinary focus. 2007 would bring with it an absolute cultural phenomenon within Japan in Kamen Rider Geno. Ryotaro is a huge wimp until he's possessed by the Taros, because they imbue their own personality unto him and even change his non-henshin look. Ryotaro travels with Hana and the Taros through time on the Den Liner to fight against evil Imagins, and they also encounter Kamen Rider Zeronos. Takeru Sato, who plays Ryotaro, claims that the reason for the show's success was the comedic timing. Because the show was so successful, it would lead to a mountain of revenue for Toei and more crossovers than any other Kamen Rider series in history.
A mountain.
Following on the heels of Kamen Rider the
Kamen
First,
Rider next,
2007 would continue the
if you
anniversary
wanna watch the older
celebration
stuff.
that the first started with the release of Kamen Rider the Next, a reimagining of Kamen Rider V3 with a much darker and more intense tone featuring horror themes. Like the Next, this movie introduced these characters to a new generation and put them in an interesting premise set in the Heisei era. Subaraya Productions actually helped with visual effects for this movie, and they are of course known for being the makers of Ultraman.
Yeah, I think this is one really famous here.
2008 was the year that Kamen Rider would take on a campy vampire theme with Kamen Rider Kiva. The tagline for this series was "Wake up, break the chains of destiny." This show takes place across two time frames simultaneously,
Actually,
being
look how huge that
1986
belt
and
is. That belt is
2008,
so big.
allowing the audience to experience the
I have a friend that's
cosmic
really
story
into the
beats.
show.
Does he have that belt?
Also, there's a YouTuber we know that loves this, which is Iron Mouse. If you know
Our
Iron Mouse.
soft-spoken protagonist is Wataru,
Really?
She
an introvert
she
who's
loves
a human
this series.
and Fengar hybrid, and this is actually a huge part of the plot, where we would explore
Yeah, Iron
Wataru's
Mouse is a
family
huge,
history
Kamen
and his
Rider
place
fan.
within the hierarchy of the Fengar species.
Your sword is a
This show introduced some really unique elements to the franchise,
Imagine this
featuring
show
Wataru's
sleeping,
ghostly allies
and
called
then
the
you
Arms
realize you're
Monsters,
in the air.
who provide Kiva with power-ups and live in a building that turns into a dragon. This show also introduced us to Kibat, a bat that bites Wataru's hand to facilitate his henshin. Although Kiva failed to achieve the same levels of success as Deno, this show introduced fans to some fresh and interesting new things that had never been seen before within the Kamen Rider franchise.
Ew, that's a little ugly for me. I don't like that look.
Going into
That's pretty
2009,
swaggy, though.
no Rider fan knew just how huge
What?
it would end up being, with several awesome projects to keep the fanbase happy. One of which was Kamen Rider G, a TV special meant to celebrate the 50th anniversary of TV Asahi, as well as promote Kamen Rider Decade. This special followed Goro, a sommelier who
transform by
henshins into
putting a
Kamen
wine
Rider
bottle
G
in?
as he takes on the organization's shade. Kamen Rider G
I
is
gotta
a
see it again.
wine-themed
I
rider
wasn't
who
paying attention.
literally uses
you
a
didn't see
wine
the
bottle
belt?
and
G.
corkscrew to henshin,
Oh,
and
I
he
didn't
even
see the
has
belt.
a
I looked
sword and
away.
a corkscrew attached to it. This special is often overlooked, but it brought the fandom something incredibly unique with a wine-themed rider, and was just one part of what would be a great year for Kamen Rider.
Hey, hold on. Let me take it back and show you that transformation
Going into
again.
within the Kamen Rider franchise.
Look at this. That's swaggy, but like I really don't like that
Going
helmet.
into 2009,
Look, yes, put
no
the
Rider
wine
fan
bottle
knew
in,
just
pull the
how
cord.
huge it would end up being, with
Ain't no
several
way.
awesome projects to keep the fan base happy. One of which
Ain't
was
no
Kamen
way.
Rider G, a TV
Yes.
special meant to celebrate the 50th
That's
bottle and
amazing.
corkscrew to henshin, and he even has a sword with a corkscrew attached to it.
Yeah.
This special is
With a cork-
often overlooked, but it brought the fandom something incredibly unique with a wine-themed rider, and was just one part of what would be a great year for Kamen Rider.
Decade.
In 2009, we of course got Kamen Rider Decade, an anniversary season celebrating 10 years of the Heisei era. This show had two catchphrases. One is "Connect everything by destroying everything," and "Heisei Rider 10 years early." Although the show only had 31 episodes, it was stuffed full of fan service and was focused primarily on making longtime fans happy. This show exists amongst the larger Riderverse, where our main protagonist named Tsukasa, also known as the Destroyer of Worlds, henshins into Kamen Rider Decade, and he travels to the universes of other Heisei-era riders as they are converging into one. He can even henshin into other riders from the Heisei era. Although Decade was a shorter season, the impact of the show was undeniable, as Decade would be featured in many crossover projects over the years.
何なんですか？
ようこそ大ショッカーへ。
大ショッカー
2009 also brought a huge team-up movie in Kamen Rider Decade: All Riders vs. Dice Shocker. This project served as the official movie adaptation of Decade that gave the audience some additional context about Tsukasa and featured a team-up of every rider from the history of the franchise up to this point.
That's right.
In addition to all of the Henshin riders throughout history, this movie also featured the nostalgic appearances of Tetsuo Kurata as Kotaro Minami, or Kamen Rider Black, and Toshiki Kashu as Shoichi Sugami, or Kamen Rider Faiz, as well as tons of classic villains from the franchise. When this movie released in theaters, it actually beat Harry Potter in the box office, earning over 2 billion yen, making it a huge success for Toei commercially and a memorable part of 2009.
That's pretty wild, because Harry Potter was wild. Going in Japan.
Also in 2009, Kamen Rider would have another chance at winning over Western fans with a new American adaptation titled Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. Using footage from Kamen Rider Yuki, this show aired on the CW television network during its CW for Kids programming block, but it was ultimately canceled before the final 2 episodes aired on TV.
Kamen Rider.
Producer Aki Komine convinced Toei to let him make a pilot for an American adaptation of Kamen Rider in the same style of Power Rangers, and ultimately Ryuki was chosen for the adaptation due to the large quantity of riders and the fact that Ryuki has a female rider. Despite the show's cancellation, Dragon Knight actually won a Daytime Emmy Award for stunt coordination, and it's remembered mostly positively by the community.
Okay.
There was also a Kamen Rider game released in 2009 that would lead to quite a few sequels and spin-offs, Kamen Rider Climax Heroes on PlayStation 2. This was a Kamen Rider fighting game commemorating 10 years of the Heisei era and featuring all of the primary Heisei riders up to this point. This game series has become extremely popular in the fandom, and it was another thing that made 2009 such an awesome year for Kamen Rider. But
you want to know why it's popular? Because it has a jank-ass fighting system. Like, it's so jank. Like, you get infinite combos, things like that, air juggles to hell.
It wouldn't be the last.
It's a jank game, dude. You might see it pop up in a mystery fighting game tournament.
A fresh take on the Kamen Rider formula, Double is a detective show featuring 2 people that share the same rider body, hence the name Double.
Oh yeah, this is very popular
for
too.
The show were, "We are the 2
I think I've seen clips, like an animated clip of this.
Kamen Rider Double uses Sky memory sticks to swap left and right side forms that also provide him with different color combinations. Shotaro is what I like to call a detective's detective. He considers himself hard-boiled, although he gets called half-boiled through a lot of the show, something he's not a huge fan of. He's one stylish dude, and his surname Hidari means left, as he becomes the left side of Double's body. He constantly struggles to live up to his dead mentor's legacy, whose daughter Akiko becomes his landlady, and she has the personality of a young child.
It's sounds like anime.
Then we have Philip. He's the right side, and he searches for useful information and does a lot of research involving keywords to solve cases. He's definitely not what he seems, and his story has an excellent twist. Kamen Rider Double featured some excellent lead protagonists that are very easy to root for. This show also features Ryu, also known as Axel, who's a cool rider that's based around speed, and he eventually falls in love with Akiko. We also have Museum, one of the most memorable and interesting evil organizations in the history of Toku. This show has several loving nods to the creator of Kamen Rider, Shotaro Ishinomori, including Shotaro Hidari having the same name, the green and black color scheme reminiscent of the Showa era, and Kamen Rider Skull, a reference to the Skullman manga that Ishinomori created so many years prior. This was the first Kamen Rider series to use the term Kamen Rider in English letters on the logo and in marketing, because before this it was always Masked Rider. Double will always be remembered as a cool, fresh, and well-written entry into the franchise. 2010 brought us Eiji, also known
All
as
the
Kamen Rider
coins.
Oz,
Yeah,
a
this
nomad
belt is
with a tragic
huge.
past who dresses like a
Look
hobo
how
and
freaking
has a
huge
not
this
so
belt
secret
is.
obsession with underwear. Eiji encounters Ankh, the arm of a greed, which is a creature made of metals that feed on the desires of humans, played by Ryosuke Miura, who also played on a show called Caesar X, and the charisma
That's a
and
heck
the
of a
interactions
hairstyle.
between Eiji and Ankh would be a standout of the season. Our two leads encounter Kogami-san, who assists them by providing various resources and equipment, but clearly he has ulterior motives, and this guy also loves to say,
Happy birthday.
Kamen Rider Oz also features Kamen Rider Birth, an incredibly unique rider with multiple users, who's themed around capsule toys.
That was fantastic.
One thing that's really unique about Oz is that he's able to mix and match metals to combine different forms, but he becomes really cool and powerful when he combines 3 of the same type, like Tajador. This show is critically and commercially successful, and Oz would continue the streak of excellent Kamen Rider seasons at the time. 2011 would see the release of a huge team-up movie in Oz, Dino, All Riders, Let's Go Kamen Riders. This movie of course featured Oz and Dino, but it also featured the double riders of the original Kamen Rider series, plus all of the other riders throughout history. Serving as a celebration
Looking real
commemorating
swaggy.
the 40th anniversary of the franchise and the
Yes.
60th anniversary of Toei Company, this movie continued the tradition of fan
60th.
service and crossovers within the franchise. The
Yeah,
fandom
that
was
was
also
cool.
treated to some nostalgic appearances from other non-Rider Toku characters like Kikaider, Inazuman, and Zubat, and a cool new form from Oz using the Imogen and Shocker medals. Appropriately, the catchphrase for the movie is "Oh the world, these are Japan's heroes," due to the large amount of legendary heroes featured here, and this movie served as a great showcase of the Kamen Rider franchise to new fans. Later on in 2011, we were introduced to one of the most unique and fresh Kamen Rider seasons of all time in Kamen Rider Foze, a 40th anniversary project themed around space and centered around the Kamen Rider Club of Amanogawa High School. Our main protagonist is Gintaro, an eccentric and charismatic new student who recently transferred and is determined to be everyone's friend.
Swag.
Yuki
hair
is
look.
Gintaro's childhood friend, and she
Gotta
is
make sure the
just
hair
as
look good.
quirky and fun on screen as Gintaro, making for an excellent cast that portray their characters with enthusiasm. This season took a lot of risks in regard to theming and style, but it resulted in
'cause
a
it's
very
nothing
memorable
like Max
season
Rider.
that was consistently entertaining and really fun in general.
That belt is so big, by the way. Those are scale. Here's the thing. I really wish you can actually see it when they're in their
Also released in
suits.
2011,
the belt is
was
scaled
the game
down,
All
but if
Kamen
you
Rider
see
Rider
them wear
Generation
them-
for the
wear the
Nintendo
belts,
DS system. This
not-
was a fun
not
arcade-style
transformed,
beat-em-up
they're
game
their
that
actual
also
size,
received
they're
a
so
sequel
big.
later.
Like that's, I don't know. You can't bend down with that belt.
Doesn't look like it.
In 2012, the franchise would go in yet another new direction with Wizard, a
Ooh.
magic and fantasy.
Oh, yeah, this is another one. This is another
with
Iron
quite a
Ma-
bit of comedy and
Iron
charm
Mouse's
added on
favorite,
top
too.
of the Kamen Rider
Wizard.
formula. The main protagonist for this season is named Haruto, and he uses rings of different elements to hench into Kamen Rider Wizard. This series also featured an incredibly likable secondary hero with a cool suit in the mayonnaise-obsessed Kosuke, also known as Kamen Rider Beast. This season also features a lot of quirky comedy, mostly delivered by Shunpei. Although this series didn't quite reach the same height as the previous few seasons, Wizard's
that was
uniqueness
cool.
created new possibilities for what could be featured in Kamen Rider.
That was cool.
Yeah, because it's a very that series is a very interesting way to have a a group show, but just one guy, because like he just uses different elements and separate from his body. It's kind of weird. Uh, so cool to
Oh,
have
our
a
favorite pirate.
yep.
2012 also marked the 10th anniversary of TV Asahi's Superhero Time TV block, and to celebrate, Toei released Kamen Rider and Super Sentai Superhero Taisen, a crossover film featuring the company's two most famous franchises. This movie focuses primarily on Decade, Foze, Oz, Go Busters, and Go Kaiger, but the vast majority of riders and rangers throughout history are featured here. In this film, Captain Marvelous leads the Dai Zangyak fleet against all Kamen Riders, while Kamen Rider Decade leads Dai Shocker against all Sentais. This movie brought the stakes and intrigue of a heavyweight fight to the big screen and a love letter to both Kamen Rider and Super Sentai.
I know this was epic.
Especially if you're a fan of both.
2013 would continue the trend of wild and fresh ideas being implemented into the Kamen Rider formula with the much-loved and very unique season, Kamen Rider Gaim. This show features dancing fruit samurai, which might sound childish on surface level, but this show actually has a surprisingly dark tone at times, with a lot of depth and weight to the story. In the universe of Gaim, reality has become almost unbearably hard and depressing for most people, so dance troupes are formed to liven up the community, and one of these troupes is called Gaim. Kota is our main protagonist who becomes Kamen Rider Gaim, and he displays a charisma and relatability that makes it very easy to root for him.
Very interesting transformation there.
This show was another treat for fans of Rider vs. Rider battles and infighting. And Gaim is generally remembered very fondly by most of the community, and it would be impossible to tell the story of Kamen Rider without Gaim.
This transformation is crazy.
2013 would also deliver another fun-filled and action-packed team-up movie
I love
in
everybody's
Kamen Rider
running that
and
one
Super
Kamen
Sentai
Rider's
and
just
Space
walking.
Sheriff Superhero Taisen Zento. This was a sequel to the Superhero Taisen movie with the new addition of the Metal Heroes franchise.
Which I think we'll talk about next.
This movie features heroes from the three major Toei franchises on screen together to fight against the emerging Space Shocker, in a thrilling and nostalgic celebration of Kamen Rider and all of Toei.
Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider.
In 2013, Toei and Bandai Namco released a game titled Kamen Rider Bat Ride War for the PlayStation 3. This game is considered a hack-and-slash style game and features every Heisei Rider up until Wizard. This game lets you take on large groups of enemies at a time during battle scenarios designed to make you feel like a powerful Kamen Rider. The success of this game would lead to several sequels over the years. 2014 would see the release of Kamen Rider Drive, a car and police-focused season. Shinosuke is an officer that was demoted into the Special Investigation Division, where he investigates slowdown and fight against the Roid Mutes. He henshins into Kamen Rider Drive using Belto-san and drives around in a stylish red car. Takahito Omori, one of the producers of the show, called it a tribute to Knight Rider, a car-focused show from the 1980s.
Knight Rider, really?
That show.
The theme song for this season is sung by Mitsuru Matsuoka, who also played Kamen Rider Eternal in Double. Drive was a well-written and much-liked season that added to the Kamen Rider legacy in a positive way and kept the fandom entertained in 2014.
Right.
2015 was a bit of a slow year for Kamen Rider, with the only project of note being Kamen Rider Ghost. This series used themes revolving around the afterlife as our main protagonist Takeru searches for the icons that will prevent his permanent death. The suit designs of the season feature bold colors, elaborate helmet ornamentation, and hoodies, a look that I appreciate even today.
Yeah, the hoodies look awesome.
I message with those.
2016
That's
saw
like
the
a DS
introduction
game.
of one of the most bold, colorful,
Yeah.
and fun Rider series of all time in Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. Celebrating the 45th anniversary of Kamen Rider, this is a show that takes place mostly in a hospital and focuses on a group of gaming doctors that battle against the Bugsters. This cast is
Yeah,
loaded
this is a
with
very
charm
weird
and
show.
personality, especially our main protagonist, Emu.
I'm a Kamen Rider.
The suits have a really unique anime look, and almost everything has a look that you could perhaps best describe as being part anime and part retro gaming. It might sound like a strange combination, but it works really well, and the aesthetic of Ex-Aid makes the show an incredibly memorable entry into the franchise.
It's definitely different, and that belt is huge. That's another big belt I saw.
In 2016, the Kamen Rider fandom was also treated to a new Rider series for adults called Amazons, based on the classic Kamen Rider Amazon, and streaming on Amazon Prime Video. This show featured a distinctively more violent style compared with the mainline series, something that this show shares
Yeah,
with
there's
the
a lot
original.
of blood in this
In
thing.
fact, there's a lot of things from this show that I just can't show you on
Mhm.
YouTube, because if I did, Kane Janai. This show featured only 12 episodes, but would get renewed for a second season. This series brought new attention to the classic Kamen Rider Amazon
actually
series,
find this
as
if
well
you
as
wanted
attention
to.
the Kamen Rider franchise as a whole,
It's on
due to
Amazon?
how prevalent Amazon Prime Video is throughout the world.
Amazon Prime,
Nice.
it is very bloody. I only took a clip of it 'cause I was like,
2017
what?
saw the debut of a cool new science and math themed rider in Kamen Rider Build. After an item called the Pandora's Box was discovered on Mars, there was an event called the Skywall disaster that split Japan into 3 warring territories, Toto, Hokuto, and Seto, and this also created monsters called Smash. In order to deal with the fallout of
Smash.
this event and to defeat Smash, the Toto government enlists help from our main protagonist, Sento. Sento is unquestionably a genius who hinges into Kamen Rider Build. This series also features Ryuga, also known as Crossy, as a captivating secondary rider with a well-written story.
Look how huge this belt is. I'm sorry. I always,
Why
I
not
In
always
order to
belt
deal with
up?
the fallout
Look
of this
how
event
huge
and to
this
defeat
belt
Smash,
is.
the Toto government
like again because I look how
enlists help
huge
from
these
our main
belts are.
protagonist, Sento.
Compared to
Sento
his
is
body and
unquestionably
torso.
a genius who hinges into Kamen Rider Build.
I need to find the video where somebody he like shows
This
off all
series
the belts.
also features
and the
Ryuga,
props.
also known
They're
as
so
Crossy,
big.
as a captivating secondary
Look at that.
They're huge.
How do you fight with that on you?
rider with a well-written story, as well as Ivorto, an alien that wants to assimilate all of humanity. Due to Build's unique world building, interesting characters, and great story, this show has remained as one of the most loved and well-remembered series
Ain't no
in
way.
Kamen Rider history. "2018 brought us the final season of the Heisei era and the first anniversary season since Decade 10 years prior in Kamen Rider Gyo. This year's show is themed around time and time travel. Our main protagonist Sogo is destined to become Oma King Gyo, a ruthless tyrant of the future. To prevent this, Gaze goes back in time to kill Gyo, but a woman named Tsukuyomi has also gone back to protect Sogo. As this is an anniversary season, we're treated to a lot of throwback riders and various crossovers that
How
longtime
huge
fans
the
will
belt.
appreciate, including
Look at this thing.
Extra big.
Like, that's jetting out your chest.
grotesque versions of the riders that oppose our heroes. Gyo was a love letter of a season written to the Kamen Rider franchise as a whole. Before the Heisei era officially came to a close, Toei released Heisei Generations Forever, a huge celebration of the entire Heisei
Elbow
era,
drop.
meant to appeal to fans both young and old. This movie is stuffed with fan service related to every one of the Heisei riders, and they each get a healthy amount of time to shine.
That's awesome.
The entirety of the Heisei era leads up to this point in a triumphant and thrilling climax, and this project marks the final Rider project before the next era. 2019 brought with it the Reiwa era in Kamen Rider Zero One. This show follows Aruto Hiden, who is a comedian that inherits a company called Hiden Intelligence from his grandfather. Hiden Intelligence makes Humagears, which are AI-powered robots that resemble humans. Eventually, Aruto encounters MetsubouJinrai.net, who are rogue Humagears led by Kamen Rider Horobi, and they intend to bring about the extinction of humans by hacking and corrupting other Humagears.
私は技術顧問の刃優愛、そして捜査官の不破勇だ。
This show features Yaiba and Fua from the organization AIMS, also known as Kamen Riders Valkyrie and Vulcan, and their goals aren't always the same as Aruto's, or even each other's, leading to a really interesting story with explosive conflict.
The sky turns to a rider kick.
This show asks if AI is a good or bad thing, a question that's increasingly more relevant in today's world, and we would come to discover that there isn't necessarily a clear black and white answer to this. Zero One featured a collection of amazingly detailed and dynamic-looking suit designs, as well as action that I consider very anime-like in general. This is a season that's a treat for the eyes. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, the production of this series was cut short toward the end, resulting in a rushed final act of Zero One and a change in tone for the next franchise entry. In 2020, after the pandemic, with Zero One's production being cut short and most people staying at home, it was decided that the next Kamen Rider season would have a warmer and more lighthearted tone. This resulted in 2020's Kamen Rider Saber, a fun and whimsical take on the Kamen Rider formula that features a more lighthearted tone and even an outro dance number, which was a first of the franchise. Our main protagonist is a novelist named Toma, who was quite possibly the most stylish rider since Shotaro Hidari of Kamen Rider Double. '20 was a year where the fans needed some lighthearted fun in their life, and Saber delivered on that.
And have some fun.
In 2020, we were also treated to a brand new Kamen Rider game for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch called Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes. This game features Zero One teaming up with Double and O's in an original new Kamen Rider adventure that allowed fans to henshin, fight bosses, and switch between the awesome forms that these riders possess. Players could acquire new abilities from the enemies they defeat as well as upgrade their stats. Despite the pandemic, Kamen Rider was alive and well in 2020.
Doesn't it look weird? Like it's concept footage.
Going into early 2021, we got Saber and Zenkaiger Superhero Senki, a crossover movie project between Saber and Zenkaiger to celebrate Kamen Rider's 50th anniversary and Super Sentai's 45th anniversary. The catchphrase for this movie is "Straightforward heroes, half of the century." During the events of the movie, riders end up in the Zenkai world, and the Zenkaigers, other than Jiran, end up in the Saber world, and eventually they team up together as you would expect. This movie served as an excellent anniversary celebration for fans of both franchises. Also in 2021, we got Kamen Rider Revice. Serving as the 50th anniversary project of the franchise, Revice is a story about Ikki and his inner demon, Vice, who are tandem riders that become Kamen Rider Revice. Ikki's family runs a bathhouse together, and his siblings also become riders as they use V-stamps to henshin and fight against the Deadmans. Revice brought a new style and vibe into the franchise, as well as some unique color choices for the riders, and the unique aspects of the show make it memorable within the history of Kamen Rider.
Fight!
2022 brought with it an absolute banger of a Kamen Rider season in Kamen Rider Geats. This series focuses on a battle royale with supporters and organizers from the future called the Desire Grand Prix. The winner of this battle royale will have their deepest desire granted to them, so the stakes are really high and the conflict is really interesting. Our main protagonist is Ace Yukio, who is the definition of being cool. We also have the famous social media star Neon, also known as Nago, who has a really great story arc, and she's very easy to root for. And then we have Keiwa, a happy-go-lucky character that goes through an intense story arc that turns him into a vengeful force of nature. This entry into the Kamen Rider franchise featured a great story, a great cast, and superb action scenes. Geats was so successful that it even received a Blu-ray release in America.
Oh.
Wow.
So you gonna look that one up?
2022 also gave us the reimagining of the legendary Kamen Rider Black story with Black Sun on Prime Video. A much more violent and politically charged take on the classic series that took its own liberties with the source material. This series celebrates the 35th anniversary of Kamen Rider Black, serving as an example of just how iconic and legendary that series was.
Again, this is another one I just kind of watched.
There's a lot from this show that I can't even show you.
Yeah,
on
it's
YouTube.
rough. Child experiment.
This is the one I was
2022 also gave us the direct anime sequel to Kamen Rider Double in Futo PI. This series follows Shotaro and Philip as they solve crimes and do Kamen Rider things in a post-museum world. Double is extremely popular, and the success of Futo PI raises hopes that maybe someday the fandom will be treated to anime adaptations of more Kamen Rider series. And this show is even getting a film release this coming November.
That's an execution.
In 2022, we also got the O's 10th anniversary movie, the 10th Core Medal of Fate, in which Eiji's story would come to an end, and many fans were quite unhappy about how it ended. I've had people tell me in the comments that in Japan people were crying in the theaters. Regardless of how you feel, this was a historically significant Kamen Rider project.
Wow.
2023 brought us Kamen Rider Gotchard, a lighthearted and fun rider season focusing on Hotaro Ichinose, also known as Kamen Rider Gotchard. This series brought with it a new alchemy theme and a return to cards being used by the riders, in addition to fun creatures called Kemis. This story explores the lives of Hotaro and his friend Rin Kudo as they seek to capture the Kemis. After some more serious projects, Gotchard was a season that had a few shortcomings in terms of story beats and character development, but historically the franchise tends to ebb and flow between lighthearted kid-friendly seasons and darker seasons with more mature stories. Gotchard leans more towards being a kid-friendly season, like I just described, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing, and some fans might even view it as a positive. 2023 also gave us the incredibly stylish love letter to the original Kamen Rider series in the form of Shin Kamen Rider, another reimagining to celebrate the franchise's 50th anniversary. This movie set out to take everything that made the original series great and dial it up to 11. The look, tone, style, and music are all faithfully recreated here, with a new layer of flair and high production values that only time and a large budget can provide. This movie tells a story that's a combination of several story beats from throughout the original series,
I think this is the
and
one
these
that has
elements
the
are
clip
all
of
stitched
like the
together
main
in a really
character,
entertaining way. It's
rider
obvious that the
kicking
people
through
involved
some
in
half
making
of
this
somebody's
movie had a
body,
ton
like
of
it's
love
so
for the
wild.
franchise, and they put their hearts into making it. And now, in 2024, at the time of making this video, we finally have a look at the next rider coming up in Kamen Rider Gath, a snack-themed rider whose catchphrase is, "Sweets and evil, I'll eat them up." He has a unique purple, blue, and yellow color scheme, along with some other cool-looking forms. And if history is any indicator, this will be another big year for Kamen Rider. For 50 years, the Kamen Rider franchise has given us some amazing characters, interesting stories, jaw-dropping action, and heart-wrenching drama. We've seen hundreds of riders fight for what they believe in or who they care about, tons of evil organizations be brought to justice, and we've been lucky enough to enjoy this amazingly weird and wonderful world of triumph called Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider.
Thanks for taking a trip with me through the history of this
I
awesome
wish it was
franchise. I'd love to
more
hear what your
popular in the
favorite
US.
Kamen Rider moment is in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it a lot if you would smack the shit out of that like button. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Definitely a thing. So what? So what you think, man? Comment.
I wish this was in the US. I wish they didn't mess up that first try.
Yeah, that's what killed it in the US straight up. That 1st series. It's really bad. I can see why nobody wanted to do any more with it.
I don't know why they lean on the sitcom aspect of it.
Because there's
Did
another
they air it at night or during the morning?
No, it happened directly after Power Rangers.
So it was like in the middle of the day. So
Yeah,
usually
after school.
sitcoms don't be on in the middle of the day. It's kid stuff.
Yeah, it came on after Power. It literally came on after or before Power Rangers. It's the same Saban. Like it's just the problem was like if you watch the show, you can probably find it on YouTube, and you'll watch it and you'll see exactly why it's a problem. If you just watch that first episode, you don't even need to watch the original footage because you can already get it from here how the tone and everything was, and you can just go and look at that series again. I mean, go watch the Mass Rider, and you'll be like, why are they like this? Why are they doing this? What is these sitcom stuff? They're never in the suit. They're barely in the suit. There's barely any transformations. There's a whole episode, 2 episodes of no transformation. I'm like, that we have to worry about him going to and finding a date for the prom. Like,
I don't want to hear that stuff. I want to see him fight.
And trying to keep the little like mascot furry thing from crashing, wanting to go with them to prom or something. I'm like, oh goodness, man. It was very bad. But any designs in here or any shows that you would like, I think I want to watch?
The one with the it was like a little earlier, the white suit. I was like, that was a clean. That's a clean suit right there.
Power Ranger. I mean, not Power Ranger. Kamen Rider Geats.
Kamen Rider season in Kamen Rider Geats. This series focuses on a battle royale with supporters.
It looks very interesting. I didn't know about this one. I'm very interested in this one too. But if I had to tell somebody to watch, anyone's to watch, of course, for the older era, Kamen Rider Black, of course, is great. I love Black. Or you can just watch the remake. So what they did, he showed what the remake was, but it's way darker. Like it's way darker. But yeah,
I am interested in Double also. Double looks kind of interesting.
Double's pretty good. And after Double, what was the one after Double? The one with the coins is apparently really good to watch.
Who assists them by providing various resources and equipment, but clearly he has ulterior motives, and this guy also loves to say,
apparently,
People's Day.
Kamen Rider O's also featured.
Yeah, apparently those are really good ones. The vampire one is Iron Mouse's favorite. She says watch that one, even though it's not, because it has a good story.
Oh yeah, the second magic one that looked good too. That's the one that Iron Mouse likes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
He also likes Double as well, but
the chibi one reminds me of Metabots.
With charm and personality, especially
apparently this is very like apparently it's really a decent story. It's just very slice of life story. You kind of just staying in one spot, like kids in the hospital. Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I really like Kamen Rider. It's just not easy way to watch it. Apparently on Amazon you can watch a good chunk of these of the remake ones that are dark.
That's what's up.
Well, yeah, that's fun. I really like it. I think next time we'll do this stuff, it will be the Metal Swords. I think we'll watch that video next. Yep, the Metal Heroes, and probably something else to go with it. Probably like the villain group or something to go with it. And then after that, maybe Ultraman, if you're interested in watching some Ultraman. Or Garo. I didn't know about them either. Apparently, this is another series as well. Super Sentai series.
That looks interesting.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything
With the
about
outfits.
this. I
Never
didn't know
heard of
that.
it, but I will.
I had no clue about what that is. But yeah, that's pretty dope. Julius, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Always enjoy these sessions, learning new stuff.
About Power Rangers.
Shows I wish I knew when I was younger.
Yeah, if you like this guy's channel, you can go look at the other ones. Like he apparently ranks his favorites. Every ranger and every
He ranks
suits.
his suits.
Yeah, he ranks the suits and everything.
I might have to watch that at work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good. All right, we stop the video.